The annual meetings of the International Monetary Fund and World Bank are currently underway in Washington, and they come as economies around the world face a confluence of crises, including the financial fallout from the pandemic, the war in Ukraine and inflation. With me now is Vicky Pryce, Chief Economic Advisor at the Centre for Economics and Business Research, and she's also the UK government's former chief economist. Vicky, pleasure to have you with us once again. There are, of course, I'm stating the obvious here, but a myriad of problems right around the world facing global economies right now. But it does appear that there's some thinly veiled criticism of so-called trustonomics happening right now in Washington. Now, as the UK government's former chief economist, can I just ask you, what do you think watching this economic policy play out?
Well, it's certainly worrying, and it's worrying in the UK and it's worrying in Europe. And of course, it's also worrying the International Monetary Fund, because what we're seeing in the UK right now is perhaps the type of economic policy which is being unveiled going against what the world, if you like, would like to see in terms of getting back to normality. So generally, of course, what we've seen in the last few months is a tightening of both monetary and fiscal policy, trying to get inflation under control. What we've seen in the UK is, just with the recent mini budget that was unveiled on September the 23rd, that on the fiscal side, we're going in the opposite direction with an awful lot of tax cuts, which for the moment look like they are going to be relying on just borrowing, and the markets are very worried about the implications of all that.
As you say, this is contributing to worries on the global market right now. We've also seen worries coming out of Washington that right now we could see global economies facing their toughest spot since 2008. It is worrying. What do you make of it?
Well, there is no doubt that we're still in a crisis situation. So any forecasts that were done before the war in Ukraine didn't take into account the very sharp increase in inflation that we've seen since. Inflation, of course, was already rising and causing quite a lot of concern as to the sustainability of the bounce back that we had seen from COVID. What is going on, of course, right now is that countries are facing this cost of living crisis. They're facing higher interest rates. The various central banks are reacting by increasing their own interest rates. The yield markets, the gilt markets rather, the bond markets, if you like, we call them slightly differently in the UK, but the bond markets across the world are worrying about the level of debt that has been accumulated and will still continue to be accumulated over the next year, because of course there is another crisis now to deal with. The IMF has revised its forecast downwards. It's not a surprise really. We've had the OECD do the same. We've had the World Bank warning, of course, that all the synchronized increase in interest rates would lead to recession. So we are looking at the possibility of a global recession in 2023. But even having said that, the UK is seen by the IMF to still be growing, albeit not particularly fast, at just 0.3%. But the worries, of course, are in Germany and in Italy, which are forecast to see a drop in GDP in 2023. So it's a pretty crucial time in terms of getting policies right, so that this slowdown and recession in some places doesn't spread to many other countries, and also that it is short-lived.